gonna say you're not then.
Isn't wait, what? Isn't this like the NPL chat, the fan server? Or is it not?
No, there's a separate fan server. I posted a link to the Twitch.
Okay, I'm in. And
This is not just fresh, fine filter.
Alright, you're gonna want to mute the stream. You're gonna want to mute the stream.
okay.
Alright. Hey, it's good that we got ads. That's ad money, Joel. More money for Data to take his girl with.
Give me that dough.
Okay.
Alright. Oh, are we? Oh shit, we're actually on right now. That's pretty neat.
that dough.
Nice. How do you sound compared to the music? How do you sound compared to the music? I think it sounds fine to me. I might be a little bit loud, but I mean, like, it's better.
I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like, if you turn us down, you risk, like, potentially being too...
Yeah, all right, mute your Twitch. We're going to get the introduction on the road. What is up, guys? It is Keegan here. We're bringing you guys the NPL. I think this is the second place game is what we're calling it, going in for the NPL minors. And we are, if you didn't check out the last stream, I don't remember when it was for the finals. Obviously, the result's going to be spoiled now because we have Turbo versus Jake. People saying go Turk in the chat. Yeah, but he choked at the end of the season, so no go Turk here this time around. But I don't know who banned It's Your Boy Roy. Oh, Nightbot, sick. All right, that was a good move, Nightbot. But we have Jake versus Turbo here, playing for the second auto promotion slot in the NPL. So the team matchup is on screen now. We'll take a little bit of a talk before. Well, okay, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. We might as well introduce who we got here. We have, obviously, as I said, Keegan, myself, and we have Matthew here, one of the analysts who is responsible for power rankings for majors, actually. So
yeah,
pay attention to the monitors. Then we have Jolt in the background. He partied a little too hard after his season.
Yeah, he's muted in the background. He's here in spirit. He's here in spirit,
and Greg's in the call as well. But
yeah,
we have the team matchup here. Not sure when the battle's going to go up. I think it's up now, but we'll take a little bit of a talk about the team match before.
Right. So I mean, I feel like it's an interesting matchup for me, right? But like, I feel like overall, Jake's team strikes me as like kind of like potentially slow overall. Like, I get he has Sucker Punch and I get he has Fake Out, and I get like Jirachi can be Scarf, and he has like Salazzle and Zam, obviously. But Salazzle and Zam seem a lot easier to shut down than what we're looking at on the other side of the field. Like, we got Superior, Raikou, Nihilego. We got a lot of fast things that are like a lot harder for him to shut down.
Yeah, I think the key for this matchup, at least on Jake's side, is to recognize what the best threats are and make sure he's well equipped to deal with those threats while being able to, enact his own offensive game plan. Because I can see Turbo's team's got a lot of great threats on it. A lot of which do match up pretty well against Jake's team. There's a bunch of combinations that can pretty much shut down each one of them, but it's going to be tough to deal with all of them. So Jake has to kind of find a fine line between balancing all of his threats. And even one of his big threats on his own side, like Mega Kangaskhan, a lot less valuable in this matchup, given that there's a Dusknoir, is going to be one of the potentially Turbo's better ways of dealing with Mega Kangaskhan.
Well, Jake has the Dusknoir, doesn't he?
No.
Dusclops. I heard Dusclops. I'm dumb. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Dusknoir, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Dusclops obviously being another good potential mon in this matchup.
Yeah.
But I think Jake's main concern is dealing with stuff like Nihilego. Nihilego does have a lot of opportunity against his team to come in and set up get a beast boost going.
I mean, he's got to make sure to play it really well. Like, Nihilego has a lot of potential, but the thing is he's got to make sure to actually make the plays, make the calls, make the right moves on the turns. Because I feel like if he makes the wrong play, then it very, very easily can be useless in the matchup. So as long as he uses it well, it has a lot of good opportunities this game.
It's definitely one of Turbo's best options to clean up in this matchup. His priority, while he does have Sucker Punch in Mega Kangaskhan and Bisharp, it does clean through a lot of stuff like potentially Garchomp Shaman, Togekiss, Salazzle, given if it's Choice Scarf.
Right. I mean, speaking of a lot of these threats, I think something else that I've got a lot of eyes on this game is the Mega Lati. I think that's got a lot of potential. The fact that it outspeeds the Garchomp obviously being pretty big, I feel like it's got a lot of potential this game for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be one of Jake's biggest things to keep control of, is making sure Mega Latios doesn't get out of hand in this matchup. This match was played in the regular season, and Jake did actually come out on top, if I can recall correctly. Joel can correct me if I'm wrong on that, or Greg, who paid a lot of attention. But that's kind of what we're going into seeing here, and kind of the tale of these two teams is Jake's been on a real hot streak to end the season. He's won 2 playoff games in a row. He ended up the season very well to make playoffs, and Turbo kind of has been a little bit of a losing streak as of late. So definitely kind of two teams kind of converge at the end, going opposite directions, and we'll see kind of where they end up at this point. But I think the battle's up now. So
is it?
If we want to go there,
It is. I didn't see that. Okay, I'm here now.
Yeah, so we can go into the battle and we can take a look at what was brought.
Interesting. What I want to see
first. It is on stream, so we'll get a look at the team.
Yeah.
Jake Moran has brought Shaman, Garchompion, Jirachi, Togekiss, Mega Kangaskhan, and Bisharp up against Heatran, Slurpluff, Nihilego, Mega Latios, Crocodile, and Dusknoir. Now, we do have potential Z-mover users on either side, of course, to take a note of.
It is, I think I've got it right here. So the Nihilego, Hitmonchan, Pinsir, Lapras, if I'm not mistaken, for Turbo, and Garchomp / Bisharp are the options for Jake. I'm leaning a little bit more towards potentially the Garchomp this matchup. I think my initial thoughts on Turbo's team, Slurpuff is an interesting bring. I'm a little bit concerned on it, although I haven't seen what it can do yet, but seeing a Slurpuff against Jirachi, even Slurpuff against something that can fake it out if it's a belly drum, or if it's Sticky Web, you have to deal with Defiant. Slurpuff seems a little bit out of place, but I'm definitely interested to see what he can do with it. But what I do really like seeing is the Lati plus a Crocodile. I really want to see Jirachi get pursued and then Latios go ham. Because, like, realistically speaking, if we can get rid of the Jirachi, then Latios seems like it is very, very favorable this matchup.
Yeah, that is true. I think that's probably also one of the reasons to lean to bringing Slurpuff in this matchup. If you think it has a good matchup, Crocodile does a really good job of putting Jirachi in trouble in the matchup. So
this is
definitely one of the best ways to get it out of the way, and then opens up opportunities against stuff like Garchomp, Togekiss, and a Shaman. Potentially even Mega Kangaskhan, depending on how you build the Slurpuff.
I think really the way I can describe this matchup right here at lead is Crocodile gets rid of Jirachi, and then everything else wins. Like, when you mentioned that, that's so true. Slurpuff just annihilates once Jirachi is down. Nihilego does exceptionally well once Jirachi is down. And I already mentioned the Lati, so really his game plan is get rid of the Jirachi as soon as possible. So we could potentially see some very interesting 50-50s in Jirachi versus the Crocodile turns.
That is very true.
All right, so
I think that's definitely going to be the key. The key to victory on Jake's side, I think, is going to be to make sure this Crocodile doesn't get much going offensively. He could potentially be Scarf variant of, say, stuff like potentially not even have to be Scarf, but Shaman in general does, you know, if he gets his prediction right on the Earthquake, etc., can be an effective way to deal with Crocodile. Stuff like also Togekiss can potentially have ways of dealing with Crocodile as well.
Right, and speaking of Togekiss, looking at this team matchup, what kind of Togekiss do you think we're dealing with? Do you think we're dealing with a very fast, very offensive, maybe a Scarf, maybe a setup set, or do you think we're dealing with more defensive to try to deal with a Crocodile? What would your first impressions be?
I think if you're bringing Togekiss in this matchup, you have to kind of you're considering two things here. You're considering potentially an offensive check to Superior, potentially even defensively on Leaf Storm.
For sure.
Being able to take
that's very interesting. We see him trade the Heatran on the very first turn for 50%. Really, really interesting stuff right there. The Okaberry definitely coming in clutch for him. Heatran going down turn 1. That's exceptional.
That's an interesting play because if I would imagine if you're making that play, you would imagine that you would be making that play
Uh-huh.
having a Sugarberry, or at least be mindful of that being a
Yeah, or
probability.
have some way of dealing with
Because,
that, Shaman.
because a lot of offensive shamans can still can do good damage against a defensive Heatran set,
Mhm.
depending on how
Right.
EVs
I
line
mean,
up with the Akaberry. So
if I had to guess, I would say we're potentially looking at a Scarf Heatran, and that's why maybe he went for the thing, because he's
sure.
going to outspeed something like
Yeah.
that. But again, that's a huge risk, and it definitely ended up not paying off for him in the least.
Especially considering we look at the damage, even without the Akaberry, that had a chance to not kill as well.
Exactly.
So definitely, maybe a little risky, especially since Heatran, one of the best answers to Tokus, and as we acknowledged in the little pregame talk, Tokus does have some value here. Especially against Crocodile as a way to check it. So not having an immediate answer, because nothing's particularly interested on switching in on
Right.
Tokus besides Nihilego, and I'm not sure how risky Turbo is inclined to be with this Nihilego.
Right. Now we talked
on
about
switching in.
Togekiss right there, and I really want to, before we see anything from the Slurp Up, I really want to talk about what else the implications of the Heatran going down are, because Bishop clicks buttons now. Now that Heatran is gone, what are you doing for the Bishop?
Yeah,
right? You switch it
exactly.
boost out, you're giving a boost. You switch it, anything else, it's going to die. So Heatran going down, that is huge. But
I think that was definitely maybe an over-aggressive play on Turbo's side. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think definitely Latios was a super safe switch. It's likely a setup sweeper that has the ability to, restore its health. So something like that would have probably been safer, especially with Earth Power being such a likely attack to come out there. So in comes Slurp Up. Now this is interesting.
Slurp Up versus Shaman right here.
So I think there are likely scenario here is that I think Jake is likely 100% going into Jirachi here. Now, it depends on whether Turbo wants to potentially risk coming in with Crocodile here. Is he just
belly drum, turn 2 belly drum, and it goes down, going off the miss of the Seed Flare. Wow. Not looking good for Turbo. Two turns of destruction we've seen. Wow.
As we can see there, appears that Turbo has screwed up EVs in a sense, which would have given him the Citrus Berry on the Unburdened boost. So,
but turns out it didn't, yeah.
Yeah, this Shaman, if there was any Pokemon Jake was going to ride to victory, it had to be Shaman. So definitely looking really, really good here for Jake.
That's an understatement.
Now, we have to be mindful here. We can't get too ahead of ourselves, despite these 2 turns going super favorably. All the main threats that were there at the start of the game are still there.
Exactly.
He's lost Heatran, which was one of his good defensive pivots this game, though he brought a more offensive set, so that might not be what he's planning. But he lost 2 Pokemon that could be used as a way to rotate in his big offensive threats against Jake's team. Right. So definitely Turbo's on the back foot a little bit, but he's got Nihilego in here, which is something he wants to be able to get in as much as humanly possible.
This is true,
I think here, Jake will make the play into Jirachi. I don't think that Turbo can really make a move besides Sludge Wave here. He's risking too much.
Oh yeah, Turbo can't go for anything else for sure. It's just Jirachi is such a good Pokemon that he does go for it though, so that's fair. And he comes in on the foul play, so that works out incredibly.
That's a good play. I don't know how many EVs Turbo put in on his attack for that foul play,
but it's enough to do over half. That's crazy.
But definitely Jake there. Definitely that shows potentially a little bit more offensive, but that's a good predict on Turbo's part. Yeah. I was just gonna say he could predict the Jirachi coming in, and he might need to at this point to get aggressive, though I'm not sure.
Right. No, I completely agree with Turbo going for the foul play, but I don't 100% agree with the the switching hard into Jirachi, just because Jirachi feels just so favorable this game. Although I don't know, I guess you could say you're using Jirachi for the Nihilego anyway, so it's interesting. I'm a little bit concerned with it, but Jirachi going down turn 4 it's not a small feat by any stretch of the imagination. Let's be real about that. So it has a special attack boost. A lot of Pokemon can come in right now. What are you thinking is coming in? Garchomp?
So Garchomp, if it's Choice Scarf, would be the immediate answer, because he would need to have Choice Scarf Nihilego to counteract that. But then again, he's going for foul play. Jake should live the foul play and be able to threaten it out.
Right.
The problem that leads to, though, is kind of where this matchup becomes tricky for Jake, is he invites in potentially Latios. Now that is aggressive play, and I don't know if Turbo's gonna want to make that play at this point in the game, given kind of how the first 2 turns went poorly. These first 4 turns have had a lot going on. I think Dustnor is the likely thing to come in after that if that situation arises. But he could also go in here into Shaman. Now, due to Shaman being a special attacker and him locked into foul play, and Jake should be able to know what the speed what the speed tiers are looking like, if he is designed to, potentially, if he's like a choice Scarf Jirachi potentially himself, he could know that this is Scarf, come with Shaman, be able to safely make that read and then judge appropriately, because obviously if Jake brings in Shaman, Turbo should understand that he knows he has Scarf.
Well, the other interesting thing is this could be a potential opportunity for Bishop to come in, because Bishop isn't going to take too much damage from a locked into foul play. Maybe if he wants to preserve a little bit more health on the Garchomp, but I definitely agree that I think Garchomp is the more likely Pokemon to come in right now.
If it's Scarfed, definitely coming in. Yeah. If not, then Bishop, I think, is another good option as well that he could use.
For sure.
You see, wait, Jake. So he's got he's got 3 kind of main options depending on what his Jirachi is. And we see Bishop here. So this does kind of read to us that he is either he doesn't know the set that's coming, or he's not choice Garchomp. Is kind of what we see here.
I mean, what's interesting right here is that it looks like he's
one thing we should also mention. Narth brings up a good point in chat. Nihilego also can't get HP fighting, so he knows 100% hidden power that this Bisharp won't take damage.
That makes a lot of sense.
Massive super effective damage. Good catch on that. That's one thing, even though I've used Nihilego a bunch, I completely forget that every time.
Yeah,
I can't use HP fighting.
Me too, but I'm a little bit more forgivable because I never used Nihilego.
That's true.
Now, bringing in Bishop, what that tells me is that he's not looking to play the long game with Bishop. I don't think he really wants to sweep with it. And it's actually not Intimidate Crocodile, it's Moxie Crocodile, or potentially Anger Point, but it is a not Intimidate, so it's not going to get 2 KO by that Iron Head. That's actually kind of nice for him, because as we talked about before, this is such a terrible threat to his team. So yeah, not giving it the boost is something that he would definitely not want.
But this is good damage right here that we're seeing. Crocodile obviously being one of the main threats here now. Obviously, Jake can't stay in.
Jirachi's gone, but for sure.
Yeah, as we know, this being potentially a Moxie sweeper, which it kind of has to be at this point, given that he can't run Intimidate. He can't run Intimidate in this matchup with Bisharp, of course. But this he kind of gives a little bit of option. He can potentially go Togekiss B, make that play.
Right, I definitely see the Togekiss coming. I feel like that's one of the better plays. The other really interesting thing is keeping Shaman alive. He did keep that Shaman, arguably sacked his Jirachi for it, but he did keep the Shaman, so he has a ground immunity. He has a ground resist as well in the back, so Crocodile's not going to get out of hand anytime soon, I don't think. But he does have to obviously switch into it. So we do see the Togekiss coming over here onto the superpower.
I find that to be an interesting play, going for the superpower there. If you're going for a move to hit particularly Bisharp, then I feel like you might have to click Earthquake, but I understand if he predicts him to stay in. But I think the switch is much more likely.
Right. Well, to be fair, it could just be that he was predicting the Shaman sack. Maybe he is Scarf Togekiss. We talked about that potentially being before. Maybe he is expecting Jake to value the Choice Scarf very highly. And in that sense, maybe he was expecting the Shaman sack and wanted to catch both Bishop staying in and potentially catch the Shaman as well. But this just puts him in such a bad position right now because Togekiss is now in and he has to respond to that. And he does not like responding to the Togekiss at all.
He could go potentially either Dusknoir or Nihilego if he was aggressive. I know in the previous matchup, Dusknoir and Togekiss had a little bit of fun between each other.
I missed that.
A little bit of flinch for crits, we'll say, was what Turbo quoted it as.
Flinch for crits. Okay.
But I think those are kind of the 2 likely scenarios to come out here. He can't go Latios. Latios 100% can't. Nihil Lego could be a good aggressive play if that's what he wanted to make.
Right.
Depending on what he expects here. If it is a Dazzling Gleam, of course the Poison type will resist it. And
For sure, but he has to risk...
its special defense is not as pitiful as its defense, that's for sure. So, as you can see here, Nihil Lego getting aggressive at the double pin here.
That is a very cool play. I like that a lot.
Really
Garchomp in right now.
Yeah. So he could have, one this does is going Bisharp. What this allows to do is allows him to make this double here, bluffing choice here, which is super important. So now he kind of leaves Turbo with the option of calling his bluff and going for HPX. He could also be Yachibear in this scenario, which would allow him to 1v1 here in this scenario, the Nihil Lego. So definitely Jake set up this opportunity for Garchomp to get in, and he kind of has to kind of pick what he wants to do.
I mean,
right here,
going for the Dragon move is obviously the much more aggressive play. It can also, of course, deal a lot of damage to the Nihil Lego with terrible defense that it deals with. But I don't think Jake has to make the play going for a Dragon move. I really don't think he has to make that play, especially with the Dusknoir in the back. Not really going to be doing that much anyways. So, yeah, going for the Earthquake makes a lot of sense to me. Now, this is interesting because we don't see leftovers. So, what I really want to say is, like, is this an offensive? I mean, if it was offensive, I feel like Earthquake would do more. But like, what does this Dusknoir scream out to you when you see no item?
He could probably be one of those with 50% berries. I don't know which one you would run on Dusknoir. I don't know what stats they are. But one of those raised 50% health berries could be an option here. Now, this is kind of an interesting turn here. So, bringing Dusknoir in, this kind of screams Will-O-Wisp, and Jake has no business staying in here. He can't go into Bisharp to threaten this thing super effectively at all. So he kind of has to go Shaman or Togesis. He goes Shaman. He just goes for the Will-O-Wisp there. I was expecting maybe Turbo to use that as an opportunity to get aggressive again, potentially try to get Nihil Lego back in on something like Kiss.
That would be interesting. That would have been a very interesting play.
Yeah, that could have been kind of a way to bait that back and potentially start wearing down Jake's team a little bit more. But he elects not to when Shaman's in here. Now, once again, Shaman being in potentially invites in Latios at this point, as he just goes actually to the Nihil Lego on the Synthesis here.
Okay.
But this is still good as well, as obviously Nihil Lego not particularly important over the course of this game for the most part, and obviously he's going to be able to tank any hit that comes from this thing. So now Turbo once again puts him, kind of asking the question about with this Nihil Lego, we're likely to see Bisharp come in. I
don't feel like Bisharp is a switch in right here per se, just because I'm a little bit he does go into Bisharp, so color me wrong, but I was going to say I'm a little bit concerned about Bisharp taking too much damage, although realistically, what can Nihil Lego really go for that would deal too much damage? So it does make sense going to the Bisharp for sure.
This brings an opportunity here, as we've acknowledged, Turbo really has no switch-ins to Bisharp.
None whatsoever. Crocodile is going to go down to 2 hits.
Yeah, I think it's at what point? At 52%, so it could even go down to a roll at this point. We don't know the exact spread on the roll, but there's a potential for that to go down, and it will obviously die to a Sucker Punch afterwards as he goes for the pursuit.
Oh, that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, really good play there by Jake. Now, this could also potentially be Color Bear in this scenario, but I don't think that would be particularly...
it could be Colper Berry, to be fair.
I don't think that would particularly make much sense in this scenario. If he's bringing it in like this, he might be expecting a switch. I'm kind of confused about why Turbo specifically made this play.
Well, if he is Colper Berry, I'm sure he would take Ironet into knockoff, and that's the only justification I can give, unless it's Rocky Helmet or something. But my impression here is that this Bisharp could be Lumberry. And I think that would be very cool if we see a Lumberry out here. But I mean, that doesn't really help versus very much other than the Dusknoir, so it probably isn't just... I think that would be a very, very cool thing to see as if it was the Lumberry. But
sure,
a lot of interesting things the Bisharp could be. A lot of interesting things.
As he goes for the knockoff, not Colberberry, he has Rocky Helmet.
Oh, it is Rocky Helmet, so he just wanted to get a little bit of extra chip with the helmet.
So potentially what he could be doing there is we see Crocodile come in as trying to get Crocodile in for free, but I think Turbo's kind of managed this a little bit poorly. I think he's I don't know, his prep for Bisharp hasn't really come through at all. He hasn't really had a good answer to it defensively.
To be fair, I feel like he had the prep with Heatran in a sense, but Heatran's dead turn 1, so you know.
He had a lot of offensive answers to it for sure. As we see the Stone Edge there come out. Good play by Jake to predict.
Hoping to catch the Togekiss, I guess.
Come in the first time and now bring it in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Shaman here once again, potentially now option for a Latios. This kind of if you're switching here, you have to bring in Latios.
Right.
As you can't bring in Nihilego anymore. Nihilego is like your kind of get out of jail free card in this game. As Jake kind of almost just essentially has full control.
Right. Oh, for sure. I wonder if the Shaman has Dazzling Gleam. I guess we'll see. We don't see Dazzling Gleam, so I guess not.
He just seed flares here, making sure he covers the Nihilego switch. I think
exactly.
Narth predicted something in the chat about a double into Bisharp. The problem with that is as well is if he goes into Latios, that could open up for potential 50-50 predictions. He goes into Togekiss here.
On the Dragon Claw, so it's
we see a physical set here coming on Togekiss. As this Togekiss now kind of gets to pick up a kill here.
Yeah.
On either, he kind of has to make a play here. Dazzling Gleam is the most likely option to come from.
Especially with how low the Nihilego is, 27%, right?
Yeah.
Like it's drawback free. The Togekiss is just in a commanding position right here.
I think Togekiss, definitely puts us in a really, really solid position. This play, and I'm not sure why Dragon Clawing there is the potential would be the play. I would expect potentially you to be special in general because Ice Beam has such good coverage against this team. When he goes in here, tries Encore, so potentially an Encore setup sweeper.
That's very interesting, but I don't know, like you Encore so you deny the Zen Headbutt or something, I guess. I don't know, that's interesting, I guess. I can't knock it, that's interesting. But he has to deal with I still feel like just going for an attack was better, but Nihil goes back. The thing is, like, Jake is playing very, very safely, and honestly, I can't knock him for playing safely when you're in a winning position. So, but that's just the main thing for me. Is he's playing very, very safely.
Yeah, I think the problem is he does. I think the thing is with that, he doesn't have any reason at all to be making plays. He has a easy place to make every turn, and he doesn't ever need to get aggressive this entire game.
He's got the win in his sights, I guess you can say for sure. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
So right here, especially if this is physical Mega Latios, because that means it could potentially just be 100% hard walled by Togekiss, which it likely was anyway.
Yeah.
But Jake just kind of here, it's kind of elementary here. What he goes for.
Right.
Finish this game as he
does. Crit, but it's not going to be enough.
As he goes for the pursuit there, kind of covering, making sure Nihilego gets knocked down here in the situation. And now Crocodile comes in. He's likely going to let him have this kill.
I can see that for sure. I mean, the other option is going into Shaman. I feel like Shaman might be a little bit better.
And Shaman might just be that little bit more safer. Save Bisharp as a way to potentially check.
Deal a Dragon Dance Lati, exactly.
Mega Latios in the end game.
And like realistically, Shaman, what does it do other than resist Earthquake and get set up on by Lati in this situation?
Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think that'll likely be his safe play as he goes there for the Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch. So a Sucker Punch on the Stone Edge, that's pretty interesting. With the Moxie boost, but he's got the Garchomp in the back, so nothing personnel, kiddo.
Yeah, I think if this happens to be Choice Scarf, which doesn't look to be, as he's just gonna fire up the Z here.
The Rain Dance! Oh, there we go! I love it! Beautiful. We were talking, I think, earlier about the Z Garchomp, and I love this set.
And Z Rain Dance coming through. It's not named Garchampion. Probably a mistake because he SDs in face. I love it. As he misses Stone Edge, he acknowledges it.
The Swords Dance. Just put insult to injury right here.
Yeah, and that is going to confirm a 4-0 victory for none other than your boy Jake Moran coming through.
Good games all around.
As that is the end. We kind of had a lot of concern at the start about Jake's potential ways to deal with the offensive threats, but he really managed the game perfectly, I think. And a big W for my boy Jake. I think we're going to try to get our boys in call here after to kind of talk with him. See if we can get King Jake in here. And we'll get Turbo as well to talk about kind of how he felt the game went.
To rub it into his face.
Yeah, a little bit. Kind of see what he was thinking, because there was a lot of turns there, especially at the start.
I'm very curious about the first two turns, because the first two turns, while they may not necessarily have dictated the whole game, it really made this game like a 4-6 game, just the entire game. Like, the game did not start until turn 3, and it's very strange to say that.
And part of that is due to a miss EV spread on Turbo's end with the Slurp off, which is unfortunate, but I mean, that's the game we play. I'm going to take a little bit of time. We're going to bring Jake and Turbo into call. I know we're going to get Jake here. He's already said yes to the call. Get your Jake emotes, everybody.
Is there Jake emotes?
There's not a Jake emote here on Twitch, unfortunately. But if we ever get custom emotes, we're gonna make sure there's a Jake emote on the MPL.
Okay, that's what I like to hear.
So we have Turbo in here. I guess we'll get Turbo's initial perspective here, as he is.
Is he in the call right now?
Yeah, Turbo just joined us.
Hey, Turbo.
Yeah. So Turbo, I don't know if obviously you weren't listening to commentary. You're not going to make like that on us. But I'm really interested to hear. Obviously, besides the Miss EV spread, it's unfortunate that happens. But I want to hear, what was your perspective on the first turn? Like, what was your reason to actually just fire blast them there?
First two turns.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a shameless plug, because I live com this. So if you actually do want to see my actual gen reaction, see if I'm telling the truth, it's live
I'm
com.
gonna mute Turbo. Of course, Turbo. First thing he does.
But make sure to hit that like button.
But Loki, I actually I thought I identified that Heatran was a huge threat, and I saw the Shaman, and I was like, okay, right, offensive Shaman will not take this hit nicely at all, and that's one of the only ways he can kill me. The only other way he can kill me is if he's like modest max HP Okaberry, which I thought he would. I don't know. I feel like it was a great set when I clicked it and then saw the Okaberry. It was a roll to kill my Heatran with the unless you were modest, Jake. I don't know if he was modest. If he was modest, I don't think it was. If he wasn't modest, it was a roll. But either way, it was a great first turn set, which was obviously designed to counter the Heatran. So that was fair enough as well. And then the second turn with the miss EV spread, that's literally just my bad. I said it in the commentary as well. Because what would have happened was I would have got the belly jump off. He needed pretty much the max roll with a Seed Flare to kill me, and I basically would have got a kill I would have drain punched the Shaman, got a shit ton of health back, and then basically started getting kills through there. But that one unfortunate miss E3 spreader, which is why you should always check your teams, guys. But I generally ended the season. I think, with a positive outlook. I'm really happy for Jake, because I think he the 8-game win streak, or some ridiculous win streak that he went on, he really deserves that promotion. So shout out to him for that. And then it's stunning on me at the end with the rain dance. I have to rate that. So fair play to you, Jake.
All right. So something else that we wanted to talk about over here, and this was an interesting turn that we kind of played around with the idea, was we saw the superpower on the Togekiss, and my perspective on that was that it seemed like you wanted to catch the Bishop, obviously staying in, but you wanted to catch a Shaman sack. Because one of the interesting things that we were talking about was, why didn't he just attack into the Togekiss? But it seemed to me like the Shaman was... I just want to hear your opinion on your thoughts for the superpower turn.
Yeah, that's that. You pretty much got it spot on. Because I knew that I was behind in the game, and Jake didn't really have to do anything that was too risky. I knew that Jake has his Togekiss, and the Togekiss was the one thing that stopped DD Latios from just tearing his team apart. So he needed to keep it in the back. And I feel like the Shaman play there would have caught... I knew he would have lived the Stone Edge from the calcs that I got from before. Obviously, you see all this in the live com. So, I knew that the Shaman coming in would technically be detrimental, because Jake loses a sack. Shaman coming in wouldn't be detrimental, because he lives the Stone Edge if I go for the Stone Edge and haven't realized that actually Togekiss is too important to him. And if he stays in with Bishop, perhaps not needing to overpredict, even though he needed it for the Nihilego, I get a kill there as well. But I thought it was the best middle ground, and in turn actually probably the best play. Although Jake just made the safe play, and it's fair enough. I feel like he lived the Stone Edge either way, and then you got the Stone Edge chance to miss, and then he just pivots out because he could work out on Scarf from there. So either one of the plays worked. I think it was just one of those genuine 50-50s.
One more thing, one more question just from me is, I really want to kind of look in your mind after we saw the Heatran go down, because you look at Heatran, and then you look at his team. You look at Bishop. You look at even Mega Kangaskhan. You even look at the Togekiss. So when Bishop went down, tell us what's going through. Sorry, excuse me. When Heatran went down, can you tell us what was going through your mind?
So when I started the video, I was like, "Yo, this Heatran is looking clean." It was the exact same Heatran that I brought from last time. I repeated 2 sets, I believe. I brought the same Heatran, and I brought something else that wasn't revealed in the game, the same Crook, which is exactly why I didn't do a team builder in the last video. So I brought the same stuff. And this Heatran I knew could put a massive chunk of work into his team, especially since perhaps the Togekiss didn't have HP ground. I knew I had a favorable matchup with anything that came in. I was sort of looking at a Jirachi lead perhaps, or even a Garchomp lead. The main plan was to get it in on Garchomp, click HP Ice, because I didn't think the Garchomp was going to be Scarfed or Yachi, and then basically get a kill, because it was like a 95% chance that Oko or Garchomp. But
Right.
I see a Shaymin, and I'm going to attack what's in front of me, because Shaymin is one of the things that's going to be able to eat hits from my Scarfers. And I was like, okay, if I can get that out of the way, I'm going to do that. It goes down, and I'm like, this isn't detrimental, because I can still... Shaymin is actually the one thing on his team that actually gives me a shot at belly drumming up, and then that's just exactly when the miscalc happened. But that's completely fine. It's just the way I saw things.
So the last question I have here is just coming from the crowd here in the Twitch chat. So you made a comment about how DD Latios does a really good job against this team. I'm kind of interested in exactly why you think that, like what scenarios you think that comes up in, because looking at the team outlook, stuff like Shaymin, you got Togekiss, do a really good job of walling a more defensive, a physical set, whereas you could see some more like a more special set as a better opportunity of coming in and killing these ones. I'm interested to hear why you think that DD Latios specifically in this matchup.
I'm not saying that it would come in. I'm not saying it's coming in and get 6 kills, because it's obviously not going to do that. But what it would do is it would break certain stuff that would allow... Because at the time, I had Crook about, which was Scarf. And so if I got Shaymin down, and obviously the Togekiss wasn't there, because that's the only chance that Latios would have to like set up and do some damage. If I got Shaymin down, and then some form of damage on Garchomp or the Kangaskhan, I will be able to revenge it with Earthquake anyway. And then I feel like I would have had at least some form of shot. I was max HP as well, so I wasn't like I was a weak Lati. So I would have taken Dazzling Gleams or HP Ices from Shaymin anyway. I just feel like it would have done some form of breaking power, which would have at least let me back into the game. Taking 2 4-0s in the last 2 playoff games is quite interesting as well. Jake definitely with the more convincing 4-0. So shout out to him for that.
All right, so now we've heard Turbo. He got his plug to his YouTube channel, and we'll move him out the way. We'll bring in our champion, Jake Moran, the hero himself. He doesn't have his own username on Showdown, unfortunately. We'll have to steal that for him at some point. But Jake, for myself, congratulations. That's a Garchomp set worthy of the name Gar Champion. Not sure why he didn't name it that, but
I forgot to do nicknames, but always a Gar Champion.
That would have been perfect for how the game ended. So my question is to you is, when the first 2 turns happened in the game, because I think everybody kind of just kind of surprised about how well that would go for them. What are you thinking in that scenario? Because obviously looking at your team, besides Bishop, you'd obviously, I assume, identified Nihilego being kind of one of Turbo's biggest ways of kind of putting offensive pressure on your team. What did you think after like the first 2 turns when he lost 2 of his potential best ways to pivot into it?
When the trend went down, I was just really happy, just because it dealt with some of my offense really well. But then he went into Slurp Buff, and I was really scared, because the way I built my team, I kind of built it hoping he didn't bring a Belly Drum Slurp Buff, because Belly Drum Slurp Buff with Thief for coverage for my Jirachi kind of just destroyed through my team. But I lost a lot if I prepped for it. I considered a Colbert Jirachi for the Thief, but I decided for Natural Gift Ground Berry at the end. But because my thought process was, if I get the Seed Flare damage off, as he belly jumped, I would be able to pivot into my Garchomp, get the Rough Skin damage, and then he would be in range of Sucker Punch. But he actually clicked Drain Punch, or he said he would have clicked Drain Punch. So yeah, I probably would have been in a pretty bad spot. Seed Flare would have put him at really low, but because he Drain Punched, he would have Drain Punched. He would have been outside of range of the my Bisharp. So yeah, I was really happy to see that go down just because of how big of a threat it was.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one thing I know I mentioned at the start was that it seemed like the amount of offensive threats on Turbo's team, you kind of have to kind of, in a sense, not prep for some of them as much as you would like, given that it gets to a point where you just prep for everything and then you can't actually do anything in terms of offense and such.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So, well, yeah, we'll let Matthew go here again.
All right, so we saw an interesting turn with the Jirachi, right? And my question for here is, I guess, what the kind of the value you put on your certain different mons were. So we see we want to save the 50% Shaman, which was fine because we healed up and stuff. That's a ground resist. That's all fine and dandy. Did you value Shaman more than Jirachi, or were you just bringing Jirachi in under the assumption that you're just going to come in on a Sludge Wave?
I did think he was going to Sludge Wave, but overall, I felt like Jirachi was one of my most expendable Pokemon, just because, first off, could deal with Nihilego pretty well, so if he did predict me, I still had that in the back. I wanted to preserve the Shaman just because Scarf Crick was a pretty big threat, and basically, with the set my Jirachi was, I couldn't really deal with the Latios as well as my Togekiss and the Bisharp can, because I kind of figured that he wouldn't be like a standard offensive like Calm Mind Latios just because it has really bad coverage versus my team, and like it has for Moonslot Syndrome. So I predicted a Dragon Dance. So Jirachi was kind of expendable since it couldn't really beat a Dragon Dance that much. It had Stealth Rocks, Iron Head, Natural Grift, and U-Turn.
Right.
So yeah, it overall was just kind of my more expendable mons. It only really did a good job dealing with the Nihilego, but Turbo made a really nice play on that turn and got me with the foul play on the switch. So yeah, and I was hoping, and I stayed in on the previous turn when he killed me because I was thinking he would probably scout for the Scarf, just because I thought Nihilego was so important to him. It really helped him beat the Shaman and the Togekiss. But he did call my bluff there and staying in, so that was a nice play on his part. But yeah, overall, Jirachi was just one of my more expendable mons that game. I felt like my Bisharp could deal with the Nihilego well enough, so I felt like it was okay of me to risk it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Something else that's kind of interesting is from the kind of spectator perspective, we kind of got an idea of where the game was going pretty early on into the game, but when you're actually in the game, it's a whole different ballpark. There's a lot more nerves going on. You're a lot more scared. You're a lot more nervous. What I want to ask is, at what point did you kind of say to yourself, okay, I have this game in the bag, if it ever got to that point?
Probably when I pursued the Nihilego with my Bisharp and got it to like 27% as he went into the thing, because I knew that just when I got that much damage on him, he really couldn't deal with Shaman and Togekiss that well, and sub on his Latios, but if he didn't, then Shaman could kind of probably beat it as well because I had Toxic, and like Shaman, just because Shaman's natural bulk, I could have been able to eat it. So
right,
Nihilego was basically the biggest thing in my way from just kind of winning. And once I got that damage, I felt really good, and he locked into Stone Edge.
I can imagine,
giving me the chance to clean. So yeah, that's probably when.
Oh, that's fantastic, dude. Last question for me, and then I promise I won't talk anymore. Now, we have the Mega Kangaskhan right here, right? And the Mega Kangaskhan's a pretty fantastic Pokemon, and you have to know going into the matchup that we're dealing with something like a Dusknoir. So what I'm curious about is, do we have any kind of secret techs to kind of but like to kind of capitalize on the Dusknoir? Do we have any kind of interesting sets on the Mega Kangaskhan, or are we looking at a more standard set?
My Kangaskhan was pretty standard. It had Earthquake, Return, Wish, and Protect, and it was kind of a like really bulky one with some attack. I knew it couldn't touch Dusknoir, but I thought that was okay because my Bisharp was so good in this game. And from Turbo's week, I think it was week 9 commentary, and by the way, he talked about his Dusknoir. He said he only had Will-O-Wisp, Ice Punch, or not Will-O-Wisp, Ice Punch, Rest, Sleep Talk, and one other move. I know it wasn't Will-O-Wisp though, so I felt like my Bisharp could kind of capitalize on it in that way and pursued it once I just scouted his moveset a bit. He did have Will-O-Wisp this game, but my fat stuff like Shaman and Togekiss could kind of deal with it pretty well. So overall, Kang dealt with Turbo's team really nicely, apart from the Kang, but apart from the Dusknoir. But I felt I built my team in a way, so Dusknoir just wasn't that big of a threat. It's breaking it.
Yeah, fantastic, for sure.
Yeah, I think all we have to really say. I think
Yeah.
for this game, big congratulations, Jake. We'll see you
Congrats, dude. Well played. Well played.
we'll see you in majors next season. It'll be exciting to see you up there playing, obviously with Techno Strike as well, who got promoted from minors, and there could be more minors coaches up, potentially even Turbo, depending on if the roster changes in major. So make sure to stay tuned when the next season rolls around of minors itself and majors to see who of your favorite minors coaches will be playing in majors and who will be sticking around to give another go at it next season, because this I think was probably our best minor season yet as a player and as someone who worked on the analyst team. I enjoyed this minor season, I think, the most out of any other one. So it's great. It came to a really good end. 2 really good playoff games. Obviously, there were a lot more, but 2 good stream playoff games that we could say were finals, which where we saw Techno and Jake come through with it. So definitely really enjoyed this game. Good job to both Jake and Turbo for putting on a good show for us today.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say. If Jolt wants to try to say any more lasting words from the commissioner himself, if not, I'm going to assume that's an analyst chat message, and he says, I can't, LOL. So that's all we have for today. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to take a look at the NPL channel. There's a lot of good content on there. Obviously, the end of the season is coming up, but you can subscribe there to catch all the power rankings and stuff that go up every week. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of content as well for majors playoffs that are coming up very shortly as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that. I know there's a lot more big games in the NPL coming soon.